come out into nature so that I can hear myself. There's so much noise when you're around other people's energy, when you're just in their presence or in places that you have experiences that your mind has something to associate to assign meaning or attach a memory or an experience to it, taking away from the present moment because all you can think about is the experience or the memory or the energy that's felt in that space. But out here, it's just you, nature, our creator, our mother, our father, and silence, grounding out all the noise and energy that is never yours to hold. So it allows me to hear myself so that I can write and think more clearly. And then to go back out into the world with my truth. Go back to my family with my truth. With a deeper sense of self-awareness and connection with me. It's where I can reflect and think about my creations, my projects, my family, my community, my tribe, and how I can show up better for that. But if you're always surrounded, let me backtrack on that. When I'm surrounded by everybody else all the time, their energy and their influence makes its way into my field, my awareness. I pick up on it, I feel it. And it makes it so your message is not as clear. Let me rephrase that again. It makes it so my message is not as clear and not as me as it could be, because it has other people's influence and energy intertwined in it. And it doesn't even have to come from conversations or words, but everywhere we go, we're a walking frequency of everything that we are and every experience that we've gone through and every perspective that we hold about everything. And so because of that, just being in those spaces, you feel the projections, the energies, the influence of others if you allow it to influence you. And I've allowed that time and time again, to the point where I got lost with everybody else. And because I was lost everywhere else, I was lost with myself. Disconnected from myself because of all the noise from other people, all the energy from other people. So it's important to create space when you need to. I have chosen to create space for me, my family. Stopped all my projects, stopped all of my creations that I was working on so that I could get clear with my message and my voice, not the perspective and influence of others. I downplayed my creations and my power and my offerings and what I bring to the table because I was confused by all the other energies I was around. And I didn't have clear boundaries either. And so boundaries were crossed that I didn't even know I had. And I made choices that if I would have had more time to myself and in my own energy and less being around everyone else all the time, I wouldn't have made those choices. And so I get to sit with that acknowledgement and taking ownership of my choice, not blaming, but just acknowledging and being aware of where I let other people's energy influence me. And it's so subtle, very intelligent. It's just the presence, seeing things from other people's perspective and understanding other people's perspective, while taking that perspective on myself and not holding my truth and what I knew was right for me and my life. I was able to observe and hear these perspectives and take them on versus, adding to the totality of my perception, but letting that perception influence versus holding what I knew is true for me and my life and my creations, my experience. And so now I'm learning to observe and hear other people's experiences and truths with not taking it on myself, because I know it's right and true for me through my heart, connection with self. And so I will no longer let the influence of others sway or alter, no matter how big or small, right? It can be such small little things. Just a simple agreeance to what somebody else has to say, is you acknowledging that energy, that perspective, and without having clear boundaries of like, no, I'll hear you, but just because I understand you doesn't mean I agree with you. Just because I understand where you're coming from doesn't mean I see it the same way that you do. While honoring that both can exist and the boundaries can be respected on both sides. And so I betrayed myself in many different ways. Ways that I'm still having to get caught up on and sit with and see. What matters most are the commitments and agreements that you made. For those that are in a relationship, married, children, your family, your wife, your husband, your partner, your children come before anything else. And I've had to learn that lesson time and time again in a world that tries to pull the father out of the home. Tries to pull the father into all these distractions. Pornography, addictions, drugs, food, so many things, working a 9-to-5 to live a life one day instead of living a life today. You live for tomorrow instead of live for the moment. And the father's disconnection of presence with all the distractions and faux responsibilities that we think we have to take on because of what the world does and how the world does things versus what's right for the father in the home. To be that sacred guardian of the process of becoming for their children, for their partner, for the feminine to discover her full expression, and for the man to be able to hold and love the full expression of her without shrinking or being small or making it about them. To love and see her for all that she is, and to honor her emotions. Because the women have carried pain that men will never understand, caused by men. Men who don't know how to contain themselves, who are boys in a man's body, still responding and reacting from the little boy within instead of the divine potential of the king that lives within them. Making a list and counting how many women they've slept with and abandoned for their own sexual gratification versus the full commitment to be chosen that they truly desire, hopping around from woman to woman, never fully committing, never fully allowing themselves to be chosen because they don't believe they deserve it or are worth it. The predatory energy of the shadow masculine leaking its way with lustful eyes and wandering eyes and thoughts they can't control, which lead to something bigger. Curiosity that goes unguided, growing up in a man who then takes that curiosity into his own hands and hurts those around him for his own sexual gratification and self-pleasure, unable to contain his predator. So people get hurt, women get hurt, children get hurt. Women walk around with this constant unsettling feeling of these predators lurking in the darkness everywhere they go. Unsafe to leave the gym, unsafe to be at the gym because of the wandering eyes and the men unable to contain their sexual leaking energy all over the place through their thoughts, their eyes, their actions, flirting while married, reaching out to other women, commenting, liking, following pages of other women so you can look at their bodies instead of loving all of them. You love what makes your dick hard versus what opens your heart. And you have to look at that. It has to be looked at because it's been brushed under the rug time and time again, blaming the woman for what she was wearing or the place that she went instead of the fucking man. Taking ownership and accountability of his inability to control himself. It's time for the good men to be a voice for that. To no longer allow that fucking shadow masculine culture to exist lurking in the shadows. We call it out and shine a fucking light on it. And just like any predator that's trying to survive, it'll fight. Man is no different than a mountain lion. A mountain lion has more self-containment than most men do, letting its predator out when it needs to hunt and eat and feed. But then it's tender and soft with its children, with its cubs. Nature has more self-control than man does, and we are not separate from nature. The women and children have suffered enough at the lack of good men in this world. Articulating and justifying their choices out of self-defense and fear of being seen for the little wounded boy hiding beneath the faux man. They can use all sorts of fancy words to make you hear what you want to hear and manipulate and articulate every action and choice that they make so that you can logically understand and bypass the feeling that you have in your heart and in your body. Why you're closed off around him. Why you don't want to be intimate with him. He knows how to use his words and get what he wants and get his way. That's the shadow masculine. The shadow of man. Hiding in the dark. Fighting for its survival when someone comes around and shines a light on it. And you know who the best one who does that? Women. Shine a light on it. You tell them how you're feeling and they wall up and guard up and articulate and justify and blame you and blah, 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 blah. Enough. Enough. Pacho, it's sacred tobacco. It's an offering to the land for this wisdom and this message that came through to share with you. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your truth. Thank you for that message.